You ever sit in your own living room, surrounded by picture frames and throw pillows your wife insisted on, and realize none of it feels like it belongs to you anymore? That's where I was, on the edge of a leather armchair I paid for, in a house I rebuilt from the studs up, trying to breathe through a kind of betrayal that doesn't leave bruises, but digs deep under your skin. We were supposed to be celebrating our 10th wedding anniversary. 10 years. A decade of shared coffee spoons, burnt pancakes, middle-of-the-night stomach flus, and all the cliches we once laughed about in our 20s. I had plans, a private dinner at the vineyard outside town, the one where we'd gone when she still wore sundresses and smiled at me like I mattered. Instead, I came home from work that Thursday late, tired, already running on fumes, and I found our dining room transformed. Candles, champagne, guests, some of her family, a few friends, people I didn't even know had our address. And there, standing like he belonged, wearing a smug smile and a suit that fit a little too well, was Nathan. Nathan, her brother. The same man who torched my career 8 years ago like it was his weekend hobby. And she brought him. To our anniversary. Unannounced. Uninvited. Unforgivable. He didn't notice me at first. He was too busy charming her coworkers, his signature blend of white teeth and empty compliments. But when our eyes finally met, his smile didn't falter. No shame. No apology. Just that cold, smooth confidence of a man who always lands on his feet, usually on someone else's neck. I didn't say a word. Not then. I walked past him, straight into the kitchen, opened a drawer, and stared at the silverware like it might give me some answers. That's when she followed me in. You could at least pretend to be happy, she said, holding her wine glass like it was a microphone and this was just another performance. I didn't turn around. You invited him. She had the audacity to sigh. He's my brother. He's the reason I lost my job. The reason we spent a year living on savings and stress. You remember that? Or is that just an inconvenient footnote in the fairy tale you're trying to sell out there? Her jaw tensed. He said he's sorry. No, he didn't. Not to me. She looked down. That's when I noticed she was already wearing the necklace he gave her. Some shiny, expensive olive branch, I guessed. He always did know how to buy forgiveness. Worked on their parents, their friends. I guess now, it worked on my wife too. He wouldn't have come if I didn't invite him, she whispered. And I wouldn't have invited him if I thought you'd react like this. I turned then. Slowly. Say that again. She blinked. What? You said, he wouldn't have come if you didn't invite him. And you wouldn't have invited him if you thought I'd react like this. Her lips parted like she wanted to backtrack, but the truth had already slipped. The kind of truth that changes a man's blood from warm to stone. You invited him, I said, voice low now, because you needed him there more than you needed me comfortable. And when you knew it would hurt me, you doubled down. It's not like that, she tried. I shook my head. It's exactly like that. She didn't follow me when I left the kitchen. I didn't leave the house, not yet. I stayed just long enough to pour myself a glass of that champagne I didn't order, toast the memory of a marriage that clearly ended before this party ever began, and watch Nathan laugh in my living room like he hadn't wrecked everything I'd built. He ruined my career. She let him back into my life. But she forgot who I used to be before I met her. Before I let myself get soft with comfort and smiles. I built everything once. From nothing. And I can do it again. But this time, I won't make the mistake of inviting her into the foundation. Let me rewind a bit. Because to understand the rage that twisted in my gut that night, watching Nathan swirl wine in my glassware, you have to know what he did. 8 years ago, I was on track to become VP at Halverson Consulting. Big firm. Big clients. I wasn't just punching the clock. I was shaping strategy for Fortune 500s, building something real, with weight. My direct report was a man named Roger Kent, cold, precise, the kind of guy who shook hands like he was measuring your worth. Nathan, on the other hand, was a tech golden boy. Flashy. Charismatic. A networking genius with a resume stitched together by favors and family connections. He floated from job to job, always failing upward. Somehow, he ended up consulting for the same firm. He told everyone he landed the gig on merit. Truth? He got in through his then-girlfriend, whose dad was a board member. No surprise there. We were polite at first. Cordial. I even vouched for him once in a meeting when he flubbed a technical spec. Thought I was being generous. 3 weeks later, he filed a formal complaint claiming I'd plagiarized one of his proposals. Said I took his proprietary framework and pitched it to a client behind his back. It was complete fiction. A carefully packaged lie with forged timestamps and a few planted emails. By the time I found out, the damage was done. My reputation gone. My promotion vanished. HR swept it under the rug, but word spread like oil on water. And what did my darling wife say when I told her? Maybe you should have been more careful. That was the first crack. I left Halverson 6 months later. Couldn't stand the whispers. Started over, smaller firm, less pay. Nights were long, stress heavier. She said she supported me. Said it was just a season. But the way she sighed when I missed another dinner, the way she looked at me like I was shrinking right in front of her, I felt it. Every single day. So yeah, when I saw Nathan at our anniversary, shaking hands with my friends, smiling at my father-in-law like they were golf buddies, I wasn't just angry. I was awake. And suddenly everything made sense. The odd glances she gave her phone. The time she said, "He's changed," while scrolling Instagram. The day she asked, "Don't you think it's time to let go of the past?" He never left. He was circling. She just opened the door again. After the party, I didn't speak a word to her. I went upstairs. Sat at my desk. Opened a folder I'd started months earlier. "If She Ever Does It" was the title. A mix of paranoia and caution at the time. Now it felt prophetic. Inside? Notes. Screenshots. A scanned copy of Nathan's old NDA from Halverson. Emails between me and a former colleague who owed me a favor. And the crown jewel, security footage from the week Nathan had found the file he accused me of stealing. Guess what? Timestamped footage showed him accessing my drive. It wasn't enough to fix what was broken then, but it was something now. And I had more. I had the guest list from the anniversary, which I printed out and marked with red pen. I circled the people she said she hadn't invited. Turns out she lied. I checked call logs, her email history, bank statements. She was in deeper than I thought. She said Nathan wouldn't have come if she hadn't invited him? No, he wouldn't have come if she hadn't wanted him there. And that made everything clear. This wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was a campaign. A reunion dressed as reconciliation. A betrayal baked into celebration. So I did what I do best. I planned. Step 1? Smile. Pretend. Act like I'm the man she thinks she's outwitted. Step 2? Set the trap. I just needed time. A few weeks. Maybe less. I had contacts. Old favors I hadn't called in yet. She thought the damage Nathan did to me 8 years ago was the end of the story. But I'm not the man I was then. I'm colder. Smarter. Hungrier. And this time, I'm the one holding the match. The next morning, she made pancakes. Blueberry from scratch. My favorite. She hummed while she cooked, like nothing was wrong, like I hadn't caught her dancing at the edge of a knife she put in my back. She even wore the robe I got her 2 Christmases ago, the one she swore made her feel like royalty. I watched her move around the kitchen, light on her feet, smiling just a little too much. The kind of smile someone wears when they've already convinced themselves they're innocent. "You didn't eat much last night," she said, sliding a plate toward me. I stabbed a pancake. Wasn't hungry. "Well," she said carefully, "I hope you're in a better mood today." Better mood? I looked up at her. This woman. She didn't just light the fuse, she invited the arsonist in for champagne and left me holding the match. And now she wanted pancakes to smooth it over? She sat across from me, her wedding ring glinting in the morning sun like some kind of joke. "About last night." I didn't blink. Just waited. I know it was a surprise seeing Nathan. I probably should have told you he was coming. "You think?" She looked down at her coffee. "I just thought, after everything, maybe you were ready." Was I? She hesitated. He wanted to make amends. He said that. Not directly. But showing up, that had to mean something, right? That's when I realized she wasn't just rewriting history. She was handing me a script and expecting me to read my lines like a good little actor in her carefully curated redemption drama. I changed the subject. "You ever talk to Megan anymore?" She blinked. "Megan? From Halverson?" "Yeah." "No. Why?" "Just wondering." I smiled slightly. "She sent me a message the other day. Said she bumped into Nathan a few months back. Said he still talks about the setup." Her fork paused in midair. "The what?" "His little sabotage trick. He called it a setup. Bragged about it, apparently. Said he only did it because he knew it would ruin me." She didn't respond. Just swallowed hard and pushed her food around her plate. I pressed. "You knew what he did? Maybe not the details, but you knew." I didn't. "You did," I said, voice calm now, too calm. "But you forgave him. And then you invited him into our home on our anniversary." Tears welled in her eyes. Always the tears. Her favorite escape hatch. "I thought he'd changed." "Did you think I'd changed? Or did I just stop mattering?" She didn't answer. Just got up from the table and fled to the bedroom like some Victorian widow, grief-stricken by the consequences of her own decisions. I waited until the door clicked shut. Then I got to work. I reached out to Megan. She still worked in HR at Halverson, now under a new name after a messy divorce. She owed me nothing, but when I told her what was happening, she didn't hesitate. I always felt sick about what they did to you, she said. Nathan played everyone. And your wife? I don't know. Something about her never sat right. She sent me internal records, confidential back then, but time has a way of loosening chains. Copies of Nathan's access logs, notes from the investigation, even an unsigned statement from one of the IT techs who suspected file tampering. Proof. Not just for me, but for anyone I'd need to convince later. I printed everything and locked it in the fireproof safe behind my office bookshelf. I wasn't ready to play the card yet, but soon. I also reached out to Greg. Greg Denton was my old college roommate. Now he's a quiet but powerful presence in private risk management, surveillance, background checks, corporate recovery. He owed me for helping him through his divorce and loaning him money when he was drowning in legal fees. I sent him 2 names, Nathan Carter and my wife. Follow them both, I said. Discreetly. I want everything. Calls, meetings, emails, who they talk to, where they go. Greg didn't ask why. He knew. He always knew. By the time the sun set that day, I had 5 things. Evidence of Nathan's sabotage. A trail linking him to my wife's bank account. Money she borrowed from our savings. Emails that didn't look romantic, but smelled too intimate for just siblings. A timeline of meetings between them going back 6 months. A plan. But I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to pack a bag and slam a door. I was going to bury them with silence, with grace, with undeniable proof. And when the time came, it wouldn't be me yelling at a dinner table or begging a judge in court. It would be them, looking up, confused, as the walls started to close in. Because the thing about betrayal? It always underestimates who it's cutting. The funny thing about betrayal is how fast it rewrites the past. Memories that once felt warm, her laugh in the kitchen, Sunday mornings tangled in sheets, even her off-key humming in the car turned brittle, sharp. They don't soften anymore. They jab. It had only been 2 days since the anniversary ambush. The world hadn't stopped spinning. Bills still came in. My inbox still flooded. Neighbors waved as they watered their lawns, completely unaware that inside my house, I was walking through ash. She was trying. I'll give her that. Suddenly, she was present too present. Making dinners. Leaving me little notes. Touching my arm for no reason. Smiling like she still had the right. And Nathan? Radio silent. Of course. That's what cowards do. They stir the pot and disappear, leaving others to choke on the steam. But I wasn't choking. I was documenting. Greg had already sent me his first report. Nothing overt, just suspicious. My wife had met Nathan 3 times in the last month. Coffee shops, no hand-holding, no affection. Just 2 people with a shared history and something to hide. She told me she was meeting Claire those days. Her Pilates friend. Claire moved to Denver 8 months ago. Strike 1. That night, she made lasagna. My favorite, though it didn't taste like it used to. Everything she touched had the faint aftertaste of guilt now. I was thinking, she said carefully as she set the table, maybe we should take a weekend trip. I chewed slowly. Where? Anywhere. Just us. Reconnect. I studied her. Reconnect from what? She froze for just a beat. I just meant, with everything going on, you've been distant. Have I? She nodded. I smiled. Must be contagious. She looked down. Good. Let the silence hang. I didn't want a weekend trip. I wanted answers. And not the half-baked ones she kept feeding me like I was some dog grateful for scraps of honesty. Later that night, I found her laptop open on the kitchen counter. She was upstairs, probably in the bath, humming a song she thought still soothed me. I checked the clock. 10 minutes at least before she'd be back. The laptop wasn't password protected. Never had been. She once said, "You can look through anything. I have nothing to hide." Funny how bold liars get when they believe you'll never check. I opened her email. First few messages were normal. Coupons, newsletters, an invite to a book club she never attended. But one thread caught my eye as subject. Follow-up from last week. No name. Just an email alias, n.carter75. Inside were 5 messages. Short. Vague. Calculated. Need to be more careful. He's watching you. Stick to voice calls only. We have to get the timing right. If he finds out everything, it's over. And the last one? Tell him it was your idea to invite me. He needs to believe you still care. That was the one that lit my chest like a furnace. I forwarded everything to a dummy account I'd set up the day after our anniversary. Then I logged out, closed the laptop, wiped the keyboard, sat down like nothing had happened. When she walked in, wrapped in a towel, cheeks flushed from the heat, I kissed her temple like I still loved her. Because in that moment, I needed her to believe I did. The next morning, Greg sent another update. Nathan had been in touch with a woman I recognized, an estate attorney. Not someone you chat with for fun. Want me to dig deeper? Greg asked. I replied, yes. And tell me whose name she's drafting papers under. He texted back a few minutes later. Her name. Not Nathan's. Hers. My wife was preparing for something. Papers, maybe accounts. Maybe a trust, maybe a getaway plan. Maybe the foundation for a future without me in it. And she thought I didn't know. She thought I'd just keep working, keep smiling, keep pretending like the cracks weren't spiderwebbing under the surface of our life. But here's the thing about cracks. Eventually, they bring the whole structure down. 3 days after I found those emails, I bought her roses. Red ones. The expensive kind she used to hint at around Valentine's Day but never got because I always said flowers die too fast. This time, I wanted them to die. I set them in a vase by the kitchen window, right where she'd see them as she came in from her afternoon errands. I even left a note, for everything you do. I see you. Oh, I saw her all right. And I needed her to think she still had me wrapped around her finger. She came home carrying shopping bags like nothing had ever happened. New boots. Skincare. A new purse. I used to ignore the spending, chalk it up to stress relief. Now, every receipt was a trail. Evidence. Arrogance printed in Helvetica. When she saw the roses, she froze. Then came the tears. You're being so sweet lately, she whispered, brushing a hand across the petals like they meant something. I've just been thinking, I said, watching her carefully, about how lucky I am. That guilt in her eyes? It flared up again. Guilt has a look, a trembling smile, eyes that can't hold contact, hands fidgeting with something they're not used to holding. Like sincerity. She leaned in, kissed my cheek, said, I love you. I nodded. I know. Because she used to say it like it was a promise. Now it sounded like a prayer for mercy. That night, I made my move. I called in a favor from a friend in property law. Quiet guy. Owes me from a past life when I helped him cover up a client's tax mess before it hit the fan. I need to know what she's protecting, I said. Do you think she's hiding assets? No, I said. I think she's planning a future that doesn't involve me. I want to get there first. We started digging. Slowly. Carefully. No alerts. No flags. What we found wasn't huge. Yet. A secondary checking account in her maiden name. Opened 6 months ago. Deposits from a business consulting firm registered in Nathan's name. Could be a shell, my friend said. Could be hush money. I didn't say anything. Just sat there in my truck, staring at the report like it was a missing chapter in a book I'd been forced to read cover to cover. The next day, she brought up the idea again. The weekend trip, she said, buttering toast like she hadn't just been caught transferring money into a secret account. I found this cabin, 2 hours north. Secluded, no cell service. Just us. What do you think? I sipped my coffee. That sounds perfect. Because it did. Just not for the reason she thought. I called Greg again. I need a copy of the cabin's rental agreement. And I want surveillance on both of them, discreet, but thorough. You planning to confront them? No, I said. I'm planning to let them hang themselves with their own rope. He didn't ask what I meant. He knew. Then I did one more thing. I called my old boss, Roger Kent. Yeah, the guy who let me go when Nathan's fake accusation blew up in our faces. The man who shook my hand with ice in his veins and showed me the door. We hadn't spoken in years. He picked up after 2 rings. Garrison. Roger. It's me. Silence. Then, well, this is unexpected. I want to meet, I said. Somewhere private. I have something that might interest you. Why now? Because you backed the wrong man once, I said. And I'm giving you a chance to fix that mistake. A pause. Then, my office. Tomorrow morning. Early. Perfect. That night, my wife curled against me in bed, her breath warm on my shoulder. She whispered something soft. I didn't catch it. Didn't care. Because by this time next week, she wouldn't be sleeping here. And she wouldn't know it until it was already done. Roger's office hadn't changed. Same wood-paneled walls. Same glass desk with nothing on it but a laptop and a framed picture of his golden retriever, the only soul he ever truly seemed to care about. He looked older now. grayer around the edges, a little more hunched in his tailored suit. Success will do that to a man. Wear him down in the name of keeping up. He didn't smile when I walked in. Didn't offer a handshake. Just motioned to the seat across from him like we were about to negotiate a hostage exchange. You said you had something, he said. I pulled out a manila folder. Slim, precise, like the dagger it was. Inside? A copy of the emails between Nathan and my wife. Bank statements showing the consulting payments. Megan's internal documentation from the HR investigation. A flash drive with access logs from the Halverson servers that Nathan thought he'd buried years ago. I placed the folder on his desk like a loaded weapon. Roger opened it. Skimmed the contents. His expression didn't change much, but I saw the flicker. The recognition. The sudden, almost imperceptible shift when a man realizes he's been cleaning up after a liar for almost a decade. He leaned back slowly. So he did set you up, he said. Flat. Not surprised. Just tired. I tried to tell you, I said, calm and cold. Roger tapped the folder. This is enough to wreck him. I nodded. And if it happens to publicly link your firm to a cover-up, it might not look great during a merger year. There it was, the sweat behind his ears, the blink that lingered too long. That old corporate fear. You're not here just to clear your name, he said. No, I replied. I'm here to make sure Nathan Carter never works again. And I want you to help. He tilted his head. You want revenge? No, I said. I want justice. And I wanted to look like an accident. That evening, my wife texted me while I was still driving home. Guess who called? Nathan wants to have dinner. Just the three of us. Says he wants to apologize in person. I stared at the message. Smiled. How convenient. I replied, sure. Let's do it. She responded instantly, way too eagerly. Great. I'll make a reservation. You won't regret this. Oh, sweetheart. I already don't. We met at a restaurant downtown. Fancy place with dim lighting and cloth napkins so stiff they could stand up on their own. She wore red, of course she did, the same dress she wore on our 5th anniversary. The one I used to think was lucky. Now it looked like war paint. Nathan showed up late. Also predictable. He walked in with that casual arrogance, sleeves rolled, expensive watch on display, flashing the kind of grin that works on women who haven't seen it fade after the first betrayal. He extended a hand. Thanks for agreeing to this. I shook it. Firmly. And I didn't let go right away. Of course, I said. We're all family, right? He smirked because he thought I was folding. That I was playing the bigger man. That I was swallowing the ash of everything he burned down in my life. He had no idea I was already stacking the kindling around his future. Dinner was smooth. Too smooth. They talked, laughed, brought up childhood stories I'd never been a part of. And I smiled. Nodded. Played the role of the gracious husband just thrilled to see his wife bonding with her reformed brother. It was all a lie, of course. But lies are like wine, better served with patience and a good finish. Halfway through the second course, I casually mentioned that I'd run into Roger Kent earlier that week. Nathan paused mid-sip. Oh, he said, voice tight. Yeah, interesting guy. He mentioned you. Really? He was blinking faster now. Yeah. He said it was crazy how long it took to find out what really happened back then. My wife's fork froze over her risotto. She glanced between us, just once, then forced a smile. Well, that's all in the past now, right? She said. I met Nathan's eyes. Yeah. Amazing how the past has a way of catching up. Silence lingered, just long enough. Then I smiled. Changed the subject. Let them breathe again. Because tonight wasn't about confrontation. It was about comfort. Letting them believe I'd moved on. Letting them believe they were safe. Letting them believe I was still the man they once tricked. That night, she curled up against me in bed like it was 2014 again. Whispered, thank you for giving him a chance. I kissed her forehead. And whispered back, he deserves what's coming. She didn't catch it. Because liars hear what they want. It tightened slowly asterisk asterisk. The day after dinner with Nathan, I woke up early. Earlier than usual. The sky outside was still bleeding orange through the blinds. And she was curled up beside me, peaceful. Too peaceful. You'd think a woman spinning a double life would sleep with one eye open. But no. She slept like the queen of her kingdom. Because in her mind, she'd won. She brought her brother back into our lives. She softened me with wine, smiles, and memories. She believed the lie she helped build was now our truth. And I let her believe it. Because people don't see the edge until they're already over it. That morning, I called Greg. You still tracking Nathan? I asked. Every step, he replied. But you're not gonna like this. Try me. He started visiting a commercial property, low-traffic office space near the west side. He goes in for an hour at a time. Never brings anyone. Always leaves through the back. I was silent for a second. Send me the lease info, I said. I want to know who owns the building, what's inside, and if my wife's name ever shows up on any records. Greg hesitated. You think they're setting something up? I don't think, I replied. I know. Within hours, I had the report. It was in a trust, registered under a shell company. But Greg's team peeled it back layer by layer until the truth popped out like a roach behind drywall. Her name, not directly, but her maiden name was listed as an alternate business contact on the original lease form. It was subtle, hidden, but not hidden well enough. That night, I brought home takeout. Chinese from the place she always said was too greasy. I made sure to order her favorite. She looked up, surprised. Wow, you're full of surprises lately. I kissed her cheek. I'm just happy things are healing. She smiled. Me too. And maybe she believed that. Maybe she actually thought things were getting better. But while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. Again, no new messages from Nathan. He was too careful for that now. But I found a browser tab still open in private mode. Commercial interior decorators. Office furniture suppliers. Executive desks. She wasn't planning a weekend getaway. She was building a launch pad. The next day, I made a move of my own. I visited an attorney. Not a divorce attorney. Not yet. This one specialized in asset tracing. Quiet investigations. Financial audits that don't alert the subject. I laid everything out on the table. The property, the payments, the meetings. Could she be funneling shared assets? I asked. He looked over the documents. His expression sharpened. If she is, and we get the timing right, we could freeze the account before it clears, he said. But you'll need to act before she moves anything bigger than what's already been deposited. Then prep the papers, I said. We'll time the trap. Because I wasn't just interested in exposure. I wanted leverage. Back at home, I played the role. Better than I ever had. I helped her fold laundry. Took interest in her yoga class. Even offered to help her paint the guest room she suddenly claimed needed a new look. She talked about repainting our life, while I was repainting the battlefield. Meanwhile, Nathan went quiet. No texts. No sightings. No calls. He was waiting. He knew something was off. Maybe he didn't trust her completely. Or maybe he was just arrogant enough to think I'd fall back into line. He underestimated me once. He wouldn't live to do it again, metaphorically speaking, of course. 2 days later, I, accidentally, left my tablet unlocked on the kitchen counter, screen open to an old photo of her and me in Paris. The kind she used to gush over, back when I was the man she wanted, not just the one she needed. She saw it. I caught her lingering. I miss those days, she said softly. I looked up from my coffee. So do I lied. And when she kissed me, slow and sweet, I kissed her back, knowing full well what I'd found in her secret account was enough to tear our marriage apart. She thought this was healing. But you don't heal from betrayal. You cauterize. You cut. You carve out the infection before it spreads any further. And enemies in my bed, asterisk asterisk. By now, I'd stopped asking why she did it. That part didn't matter anymore. Not really. People like her. People like them. They don't betray out of reason. They do it because they think they can. Because they assume you're too slow, too soft, or too in love to notice the knife until it's twisted in your ribs. They were wrong on all 3 counts. I was watching. I was preparing. And now, I was building a quiet army. First recruit, Megan. She'd left Halverson after everything imploded, moved into a smaller firm doing risk compliance. Still bitter, still sharp as hell. I'd sent her a burner email detailing what I knew and asked her to dig into Nathan's consulting firm. What she sent back? Delicious. Nathan's LLC wasn't just a front. It was a leaky boat, hemorrhaging cash into fake marketing expenses, a fake payroll system with 2 untraceable names, and massive write-offs tied to travel. Guess where those flights went? Cancun, Vancouver, Maui. Guess whose name showed up as a hotel guest more than once? My wife's. Under her maiden name. Charged to his consulting card. So much for just reconnecting with family. I wasn't surprised. But it still hit me like a nail gun to the chest. Not because I loved her. That was long gone. But because I once did, and she burned it like trash. I didn't lash out. That's what they would expect. No. I called in the next piece, Roger Kent. After our last meeting, he'd stayed quiet. But I knew he was rattled. He still owed me, even if he didn't admit it. When I sent him an anonymous tip, written in a fake email account, of course, linking Nathan's firm to a fake proposal mirroring Halverson's current strategy plan, the gears started turning. Nathan had tried to play the same scam again. Only this time, I planted the evidence first. 2 days later, Roger forwarded me a message from the Halverson legal team. Nathan's consulting firm was under audit for potential IP theft. I'd cracked the shell open, and now the rot inside was stinking up the air. Back home, she was radiant. It was almost comical how light she became, how generous, how flirtatious, how carefree. She thought she'd made it. Thought she'd broken me. Thought I was content with table scraps of affection while she planned her escape behind my back. That night she made a toast. To new chapters, she said, clinking her glass to mine. I looked her in the eye. Let's hope they have happy endings. Then came Greg's update. He'd followed Nathan to a private banking office downtown. One of those legacy wealth places where rich cowards park money before jumping ship. Inside, Nathan handed over a portfolio. It included 2 passports, a list of offshore accounts, and an itinerary for a business-class flight to Zurich. Date, 2 weeks from now. Accompanied by spouse, not wife. Spouse. Because legally, she wasn't his. Not yet. But they were planning something. That meant I had time, a window to ruin everything before they could cash in and vanish. So I called my third contact, Clara, my old college roommate's sister. An investigator now, working in financial crimes. I asked her for a private consult. I need to freeze an account, I said, giving her the dummy shell details. Not today, but soon. Quietly. She asked no questions. Just said, when you're ready, give me the signal. Back home, I printed one of the hotel receipts, the one from Maui, 3 months ago. I folded it neatly, slipped it under her pillow, said nothing, just waited. Around midnight, I heard her gasp. Then footsteps. Then the bedroom light clicked on. She stood there in her robe, shaking, holding the paper like it had just burned her hand. I can explain, she started. I cut her off. Don't. But I don't. Silence. I was going to tell you, she whispered eventually. You were going to leave me, I corrected. She looked down. Didn't deny it. I didn't expect that I'd figure it out. Still nothing. Then you underestimated me. And she did. They both did. But they were about to learn something I'd known all along. When you push a quiet man past the brink, he doesn't explode. He erases you. The next morning was interesting. She tried to play it cool. Made breakfast like nothing happened. Humming in the kitchen again, though this time it was off-key, almost mechanical. Her eyes were puffy. The robe wrinkled. She poured coffee with hands that weren't quite steady. I thought we could talk, she said softly, sliding a mug toward me. I sipped. Let the silence stretch. I've learned it's more powerful than shouting. Silence makes liars fill the gap with their own noise. I made mistakes, she said eventually. But I never stopped loving you. I looked at her. You booked a honeymoon suite with your brother. Her face crumpled for half a second, then hardened. It wasn't like that, eh? You used the same travel agent we used for our wedding. I didn't. You did. I saw the receipt. Same agency. Same room tier. You just took him instead. She flinched, like that realization had just hit her too. I thought we were done, she whispered. You never said that. I didn't have to, she said. You were never here. You stopped seeing me. I stopped being part of your life the moment you decided your pride was more important than our marriage. And there it was. The confession dressed in deflection. The classic handoff, guilt volleyed back like a serve in a match she still thought she was winning. You could have told me, I said, calm. But you didn't. You lied. You planned. You built a whole new life while I was still paying for the last one. Tears again. Her go-to. But I didn't flinch. Because I knew what she didn't. This was just the beginning. At 11 a.m., I had coffee with Roger Ken again. He'd done some digging of his own. Turns out, Nathan had used his position at another consulting firm to access proprietary data from Halverson's biggest rival and leaked it to secure a contract. You realize, Roger said, sipping his espresso. This could be criminal. I nodded. That's the idea. He looked at me across the table. What exactly do you want from all this? I gave it to him straight. I want his career in flames. I want her name scorched. And I want to walk away with everything they thought they could steal. He nodded slowly. You know, he said, you always were the quiet type. Guess I forgot that doesn't mean harmless. That afternoon, I made one more stop, the bank. The shared savings account. I transferred 80% into a legal trust. All above board. No tricks. No theft. Just a preemptive strike to preserve assets before they could bleed me out. She'd get her share. Legally. Cleanly. But she wouldn't get a penny of the new money coming in, the silent partnerships, the anonymous patent I filed last year, or the algorithm deal in motion. That was mine. And I'd buried it deep, under LLCs she'd never think to check. That night, she broke. Not in a dramatic, screaming way. She just stood at the kitchen sink, staring out the window, holding a dish rag like it was keeping her grounded. I ruined us, she said, barely audible. I didn't respond. I thought Nathan could fix something I didn't know how to talk to you about. I still didn't respond. Because what was left to say? Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. It doesn't erase flights, burner phones, or bank transfers. She wasn't crying anymore. She looked like a woman who'd just realized her parachute was packed by the wrong man. After she went to bed, I opened my laptop, uploaded the documents, drafted the email to Halverson's legal department, attached everything Megan and I had uncovered. But I didn't hit send. Not yet. Because next, I was going to let her tell Nathan. Give him time to panic. And when he ran, that's when I'd press send. By the time I woke up the next morning, she was already dressed, blouse too crisp, smile too smooth. That meant one thing. She had somewhere to be, and a lie rehearsed before breakfast. Heading into the city, she said, pouring coffee like she hadn't just torched our life and lit a cigar with the ashes. A client lunch. I didn't flinch. Need me to drop you off? She blinked. Didn't expect that. No, I'm meeting Claire. Then we're grabbing drinks after. Claire again. The same Claire who now lived 1,400 miles away and hadn't posted a picture from this coast in over a year. She left, kissing me on the cheek like a politician shaking hands in a town he plans to bankrupt. As the door shut, I opened my phone and texted Greg. Follow her. Camera's on. Keep a buffer. One-word reply. Copy. Meanwhile, I had my own meeting. A real one. Lunch with Elliot Roth, investor, tech shark, and one of the few people I trusted with my biggest secret, Ardent. That's the name of the algorithm I'd been building for the last 3 years. What started as a private side project turned into a multi-million-dollar prototype. Ardent wasn't just code. It was evolution, an adaptive AI designed to streamline human response prediction across entire industries. And the best part? No one at my old company knew about it. Especially not her. It's ready, I told Elliot. He grinned. You still want to go silent partner? Until the dust clears. Then we surface and bury everyone who bet against me. Elliot raised his glass. To patience. I didn't drink. Just nodded. Because I wasn't toasting. I was loading the next bullet. Greg's update came in at 3:17 p.m. Subject seen entering 4th and Vance building. Unit 9B. That was Nathan's consulting suite. Greg sent a photo. Her car parked outside. Then another, blurry, zoomed in, but unmistakable. Nathan, opening the door, letting her in, his hand on her lower back. She didn't flinch. She leaned in. Back in 9 minutes. Left alone. Looked shaken. Took longer route home. I didn't need audio. I knew what happened. She'd told him. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough for Nathan to realize the walls were shifting. That my silence wasn't surrender. That I'd stopped being the man who let him get away with it once. Greg sent one final message that night. Nathan booked a flight. Zurich. One way. 3 days from now. Perfect. Just long enough to tighten the rope around his career before he tries to vanish. Back at home, she was curled up in bed, pretending to read. A bottle of wine half empty on her nightstand. She looked up at me when I walked in like she wanted to say something. But she didn't. Because she could feel it now. The shift. The ground beneath her wasn't stable anymore. And the man beside her? He wasn't the same one who ignored the warning signs the first time. I think we need to talk, she said softly. About what? She hesitated. Everything. I sat at the edge of the bed. Watch her. She was trying to salvage what was left, not of the marriage, but of her exit strategy. She knew I had seen too much. And she didn't know what I had left to reveal. Later, when she finally fell asleep, still clutching that wine glass like a security blanket, I got up, walked into my office, opened the draft email to Halverson Legal, clicked send. Then I opened a second email, this one addressed to Nathan. Subject, Zurich's going to be cold. Pack lightly. Attached? Just one file, a screenshot of his hotel booking, a bank transfer receipt with his LLC and her maiden name. and a photo of him at the office that afternoon, hand on her back. No text, no threat, just certainty. The kind that comes from being 3 moves ahead and done playing nice. She started the morning in silence. Coffee brewed, toast burned slightly, and she didn't speak a word. Her eyes were somewhere else, far away, like she was bracing for an impact she couldn't see but somehow knew was coming. She didn't even ask where I was going when I left early. That's how I knew it was working. People don't ask questions when they're afraid of the answers. By 10 a.m., Nathan had responded to my email. No subject line, just 2 words. You win. That was it. Not an apology, not a threat, not an explanation. Just the coward's confession, resignation wrapped in arrogance. I forwarded it to Roger with the caption, "Should make the board smile." He replied 30 minutes later. Nathan's contract terminated. Legal is circling. He won't work in this industry again. Consider your pound of flesh delivered. 1 down. That night, she was different. Not nervous. Not defensive. Just quiet. Cautious. Like a cornered animal trying to figure out if the shadow approaching is mercy or the final blow. She made dinner. Something fancy. Seared scallops, risotto, a drizzle of something French I couldn't pronounce. The same meal she made when I got my first big promotion all those years ago. Only this time, there was no celebration. Just silence and salt. "You're being very calm about everything," she said at last, not meeting my eyes. "I've had a lot of time to think. And I'm done being lied to." She swallowed. "Hard. Do you hate me?" "No," I said. "Not anymore." "Then what do you feel?" "Clarity." She looked down at her plate. "I didn't mean to fall into anything. I didn't plan it. You planned the travel, the accounts, the property, the lunch meetings, the lie about Claire. You planned it. You just didn't think I'd notice." That hit. She flinched. Like I'd finally said something sharp enough to break through whatever script she'd been rehearsing. "I didn't want to hurt you." "But you did." She finally looked up at me. "Is there anything I can say to make you stay?" And there it was. The fear. Finally surfacing. Because she thought I was still in this house out of love. Or habit. She didn't realize I was staying to finish what I started. Later that night, I watched her sit at her vanity and type something into her phone. She thought I wasn't watching. She deleted it before hitting send. Too late. Greg's team already had a screen cap. The message was to Nathan. He knows. "I think it's over. Zurich's canceled." It was almost sad, the way she clung to him still, even after his house of cards was crumbling. But some people never know how to let go of a sinking ship. They just drown slower. The next morning, she tried again. "I'll give you space," she said. "Time. I don't want it to end this way." I studied her. "You ended it the moment you decided I was optional." Tears. "Of course. Always. I just didn't think you'd find out like this. You didn't think I'd find out at all." She opened her mouth to respond but closed it again. And then she said the one thing I didn't expect. "I never stopped loving you." I stood up, gathered my keys. "You just loved him louder." She didn't follow me that morning. Didn't chase me to the door. Didn't send a message. Didn't leave a voicemail. It was the first time in weeks she didn't try to put out the fire. Which told me she finally realized there was no fire extinguisher big enough to save her. Only ashes now. I met with Clara in a quiet corner booth at a diner no one would think to check. She brought paperwork, clean, complete, and quietly devastating. "The trust is secure," she said. "Assets are protected. As of this morning, the shared account has been frozen with a pending fraud flag. Will that trigger a notification?" "No," she said. "Not unless she tries to move something. And if she does, the hold becomes a block." Perfect. I flipped through the documents and found the one I'd been waiting for. The affidavit of asset shielding. Legally binding. Fireproof. Unbreakable. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just ending a marriage. I was sealing a vault. Back home, she was in the living room, folded into herself on the couch. The TV was on, but she wasn't watching. Some home renovation show droned in the background. Ironic, really. A happy couple tearing down walls and rebuilding trust. She looked up when I came in. Said nothing. I didn't either. I walked past her, up the stairs, into my office. I shut the door. Because she didn't deserve explanations anymore. 2 hours later, I heard the front door open. Then close. I checked the driveway from the upstairs window empty. 10 minutes after that, Greg sent me a ping. "She's at Nathan's." Again. Of course. When a liar's cornered, they don't repent. They retreat to the only place that still feeds their ego. I didn't follow. Didn't text. Didn't need to. Because that afternoon, I made my final move. I met with my attorney, signed the separation paperwork, clean, emotionless, airtight. She wouldn't lose everything. Just everything she didn't expect to. The next morning, I made sure to be home before she returned. She came in quietly, slipped her shoes off like she didn't want to wake something that was already dead. She turned the corner and stopped cold. There on the dining table, where the anniversary flowers had once sat, was a thick envelope. She looked at it like it might explode. I watched from the kitchen, arms folded. She opened it. Inside was everything. A notarized letter explaining the trust freeze. A copy of the hotel receipts. A list of wire transfers from Nathan's LLC. And a one-line note in my handwriting. Truth has a paper trail. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, holding the truth in her trembling hands, finally realizing the fight was over. Not because she lost, but because I walked away from the ring. I didn't yell, didn't threaten, didn't beg, because the most deafening thing you can give a traitor is your silence. The day after I left the envelope on the table, she tried to rewrite the script. Liars always do. When the mask slips and the truth shows its face, they don't accept it, they edit it. Frame by frame, word by word, until they're the victim in the story they lit on fire. She started with mutual friends. First was Hannah, one of her oldest friends, who'd always liked me but somehow never quite stopped enabling her. I saw it coming from a mile away. Hannah posted a photo of them drinking wine. Caption read, "Hard days show who stays by your side." I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Because 20 minutes later, I sent a private message to Hannah with 3 attachments. A copy of the hotel invoice, the wire transfer from Nathan's fake LLC, and a screenshot of her message to him. He knows. I think it's over. 2 hours after that, the post was gone. She didn't repost. She went silent. Because when truth shows up wearing receipts, hashtags don't stand a chance. But the real blow came later that night. She tried to talk. Again. "I think we need to be careful with how we tell people," she said, voice low and measured, like she was already strategizing spin control. "For Belle. For the families." I nodded. Of course. She looked relieved for half a second, until I slid a small envelope across the counter. "What's this?" "Something I sent to my family. Yours should see it too." She opened it. Inside, a timeline. Clean. Labeled. Factual. Backed by screenshots, bank records, travel logs. No opinion. No venom. Just truth. The kind that cuts cleaner than any insult. You sent this to your parents?" I nodded. "They asked why I moved out. I figured they deserved the truth. Not your version." She staggered slightly. "This makes me look." "It doesn't make you look anything," I said, cutting her off. "You did this. I just took notes." She didn't sleep that night. I heard her pacing through the halls, whispering into her phone. Probably to Nathan. Or Lucy. Or anyone still willing to buy her story with the last of their sympathy. But sympathy runs dry real fast when reality slaps harder. The next day, I started getting messages. Friends. Neighbors. Her cousin from Portland, the one who used to post filtered selfies with captions about loyalty and soulmates. "Hey, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. If you need anything, I'm here." "Jesus, man. I'm stunned. She said you were cold. You were grieving. She made it sound like you were the one who gave up." I didn't lash out. I just responded with the same 4 words. "She told you wrong." And attached the evidence. Let them decide. Let them pick sides based on truth, not tears. Greg's report came in the same day. Nathan had gone dark. No banking activity. No phone pings. He was prepping for a run, for sure. Zurich? Maybe. Some other haven for cowards and stolen money? Very likely. But I didn't need to chase him. I just needed the clock to keep ticking. Because on Friday, the Halverson press release would go live, internal fraud discovered, consultant terminated pending investigation. No name listed, of course. But anyone who'd ever worked with Nathan would know. And everyone who ever believed in her would feel that shadow fall across her too. That night, she tried again. "You're destroying me," she said in a soft, hollow voice. "You could just walk away. Why are you doing this?" I looked her dead in the eye. "Because I did walk away." I paused. "You're just not used to consequences following you."